So there's an old saying that I'm sure you guys have heard before, and it goes, in order to be the best, you have to beat the best. And on Sunday, we're going to find out who the Broncos really are because they're hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, currently, the Chiefs are a 3.5 point favorite, and I'm not a gambling man, but what that says to me is that, obviously the Chiefs are expected to win this game despite being 5-4. Now, if you guys have been following the Chiefs this season, you know that they are not an explosive offense. They cannot run the ball. They are horrific on early downs, and that goes into the Broncos' favor. Now, Denver, or we as Bronco fans, obviously know that this is not a flawless, perfect team. Being 8-2 honestly is kind of crazy considering how some of these games have gone, like the Raiders game, of course, the Giants game. It's been unreal. But I do think that this is actually a good matchup for the Broncos. I don't look at the Chiefs in the sense and say that, oh, well, they've run the NFL. They've run this division. They have, don't get me wrong. But this is not the Chiefs that did that. This is a 5-4 Chiefs team that is desperate to be able to make the playoffs, because if it were to end today, they wouldn't make it. And that's cool and all. But the Broncos don't care about that. What they care about is protecting their home field, being 8-2, and understanding that, hey, look, this one loss is going to put them into a tie with the Chargers, assuming they beat the Jags, which I don't even know if they're going to do that. But you can't afford to be losing games, especially against divisional rivals at home. And I do think that Denver will come out with the same amount of tenacity as the Chiefs. Everyone's like, oh, well, the Chiefs need this game. The Broncos need this game, man. They're trying to win the division. They're trying to get a first-round bye. They're trying to win a Super Bowl. No, I understand. Bo Nix has made mistakes this season. He hasn't been perfect. But Nix is actually pretty good when he's going up against coverages that are not disguised. And the issue with the Chiefs is, well, they disguise coverages 40% of the time. So take a look at the numbers when Bo Nix knows what defense he's facing and when he doesn't know what defense he's facing. So when he knows the defense, 73.7 passing grade, 6 yards per attempt. And when he doesn't, that drops to 56.5 and 5 yards per attempt. So the games that the Broncos have struggled in this season, which has been a lot of them offensively, literally a week ago against the Raiders, Nix was very uncomfortable hurrying his throws. His mechanics, his footwork were off. And no, I'm not an NFL quarterback. I played defensive back in school, but it doesn't take a nuclear physic to know that Bo Nix he hasn't been the same player as last season. He hasn't had that fire and that tenacity underneath him. And for all we know, this game is going to help him do that, because Steven Spagnuolo is going to mix up his looks with safeties. He's going to move them around. I don't think Nix is going to know what's coming. And it's going to show, again, who Nix is, who the Broncos are. Because defensively, I think we can kind of all agree here that the Broncos aren't going to have much of an issue. I mean, sure, the Chiefs are going to score. They might, score 2 touchdowns. It's not going to be a lights-out performance like it was against the Raiders. But I do think that the Broncos are going to force multiple takeaways. I think special teams is going to show up. And I do think it's probably going to be a 17-7 game late in this fourth quarter. And I think Bo Nix is going to hit Troy Franklin across the middle of the field for a big time play to sort of ice this game. It might be a 3rd and 3 bootleg or a play action or something. Sean Payton's going to have to get in his bag. But I do think this game will be down to the wire. I just don't understand how, in my biased opinion, the Chiefs are a 3.5 point favorite, because the Broncos are a way better team than the Chiefs this season. Despite all our struggles, this defense has been by far the best the last 2 seasons. Offensively, we've seen the skill position players start to really get going lately. Like, not Marvin Mims, I feel like, has been kind of quiet, but Troy Franklin caught a touchdown, of course. Pat Bryant just recently caught a touchdown a couple of weeks ago. Evan Ingram, I feel like, needs to get way more work. I'm not sure why they don't feature him more. Same thing with R.J. Harvey. He caught a touchdown out of the backfield. So we're starting to see flashes of it. We just need to see consistencies of it. And I do think that the Broncos are going to take this game very personally, because you imagine being 8-2 and the Chiefs are 5-4, and everyone's talking about this is the year that the Chiefs dynasty ends. And then they go into your building off of a loss against the Bills and they beat you. I mean, that's a slap in the face. That's just pure disrespect to that point. So the Broncos need to go out there and show everyone that, hey, look, we are not the worst 8-2 football team to ever play the game, because that's what a lot of people think. They think the Broncos are frauds, and I don't really blame them. The Broncos have not really been a great team this season. They're 8-2, awesome. But it's like, are we really celebrating that? Yeah, I'm fortunate. I rock my Broncos gear. But this team is missing something, and what they're missing is just simply Bo Nix going out there and having a big game against a very good team. And if he can do that against the Chiefs and the defense can play well, now obviously the Broncos can beat anyone. Because if you could beat the best, then you're going to be the best. I know the Eagles won last year's Super Bowl, but the Chiefs have continuously destroyed and dominated the Broncos, embarrassed them, belittled them. And now you have a chance to protect your home field, to go out there and to show the world that, hey, look, we're here to stay, and you're going to have to run through us. The two losses the Broncos have had this season were the Colts, who are 8-2, and to the 7-3 Chargers. Now, the Chargers game, as we all know, was very unfortunate because there was multiple missed touchdowns that they should have connected on. They didn't, and it's as simple as that. Justin Herbert made plays, Bo Nix didn't. Both defenses played well. Both defenses had a couple of off stretches where they gave up scores in back-to-back drives, right? So I just look at Denver, and I started covering this team a year ago, so I'm kind of spoiled because, like, the Sean Payton era, well, that's not true, sorry. I started covering them when Sean Payton took over, so they had Russell Wilson, and yeah, they had slow start, kind of got going, but they never were really, like, that great of a team. But then they move on from Russ. They bring in Bo Nix out of Oregon, also played at Auburn. So he had, of course, different conferences experience. He had played more snaps than any other college quarterback. And that's when I started to really ramp up the Broncos content because I believed in Bo Nix, and I still do. I always have. I think he's a winner. I think he's a great leader, and I just need him to prove it. Because if the Broncos want to get to that next level, they need to have a quarterback that can elevate everyone else around him. Because the Broncos have a lot invested into their skill position players. Cortland Sutton, they extended. Pat Bryant was a second-round pick. Troy Franklin, technically, he was a fourth-round pick, which, nothing crazy. But they really believe in him. Evan Ingram was a free agent addition. R.J. Harvey was a second-round, back end of the second-round draft pick. Jacob Dobbins was like a veteran minimum contract. But, they have a lot of pieces they like. Definitely have got to, give a shout-out as well to Marvin Mims. I don't know why he's not on the... Oh, there he is. Okay, yeah, he is on the depth chart. So they've got all these weapons that they believe in, and the Broncos did have discussions with Jalen Waddle at the trade deadline. The Bills offered a 2020... What would it be? 2027 first-round pick. So not this April coming up, but the year after that, and they said no. I wanted the Broncos to get Jalen Waddle. A lot of you guys didn't, and clearly I could tell because I lost a lot of subs for saying that. We, to each our own, but I just look at Denver, and what that told me about this team is that they believe in Bo Nix and they believe in their skill position players enough, or they just invested a lot and kind of want to stick with it, or maybe both. I don't really know, but clearly they have to have believed in what they're doing, because if the Chiefs are 5-4, they're out of the playoffs currently, and the Broncos are 8-2, you think now's the time to go all in. The Chargers are decimated with injuries. But they're going to have to be able to win this game without that additional guy. And Jalen Waddle has missed, I believe, 3 games in his career. He's a very electric player. The Dolphins are coming off of a blowout win against the Bills. So I would have loved to have that piece. But I will say this. Bo Nix, it says a lot about him if the Broncos did go out and make that move, because it really says that they truly know that this guy can go out and win them a Super Bowl by not doing that. And they like the pieces they have around him, and they trust this defense. And it's also not cheap to just bring in a Jalen Waddle to give up a first and to take on his contract. So I get it, but hey, man, all I know is that I don't think I've been more excited for a football game all season long. Chiefs coming into town 8-2, protecting home field. If the Broncos win the Super Bowl, I think we'll look back on this game and say that, hey, look, this is when we really started to believe that this team has what it takes. And being 8-2, I couldn't care less. What I care about is being able to beat the Chiefs and show that, hey, look, the old days are over. It's our time now, man. It's Bo Nix's time. I'm out. Peace.